I'm so excited to have everyone here today to tell us more about specialized college programs. First of all, I want to introduce everyone. Why don't you wave when I introduce you? We've got Callie Colgrove, Texas A&M Achieve, and her mom, Rhonda. And we've got Matthew Phillip from Texas A&M Achieve and his mom, Ancy. And then we have Reese Newton with mom and dad, Denise and John. Yes, great. And every one of y'all are so important, and I'm so glad you're here. So we want to hear from y'all about your experiences. So let's start by, I want to ask all the students this, to tell us a little bit about yourself, and that can be like where you went to high school, what your interests and hobbies are, that kind of thing. Why don't we start with Reese?
So hi, I'm Reese. I went to Frisco High School. My hobbies are hanging out with my family, hanging out with my friends, and playing with my cat. My interests are working as a Disney cast member after I graduate Access.
Very nice, thank you. Okay, how about you, Matthew? Tell us a little bit.
Hi, my name is Matthew Phillips. I went to Liberty High School. My hobbies are playing basketball, watching sports, going out to eat, just having fun. So.
Thank you.
And my favorite sports are football, baseball, and basketball.
Awesome, especially basketball, I bet.
Yeah, because I like the Rockets because I was born in Houston. So.
Awesome. Okay, Callie, what about you?
Well, I got about breaking, and I like to do art and bake. And
a lot of baking over the holidays.
Yeah, and I like to tell them I went to Reagan.
Okay.
Well,
welcome. Welcome to all of you. Okay, so I want to know from you students, why did you want to be in a program like the one that you're in? What made you want to do that? Matthew?
Which program?
The Achieve program.
Let's see why. Well, I wanted to be in the Achieve program because my dad went to A&M, and this was it would help me be successful in life, be more mature, more independent, and it would just help me like with college. And so I really like this program, and I make a lot of friends in there too. So.
Awesome. What about you, Reese? Why did you want to be in Access?
Because I wanted to experience college, and I wanted to go to college with my siblings and be there with them. I also wanted to make new friends and go to somewhere out of state from Texas.
Okay, great. And I think these questions are going to be hard to only ask a couple. So I'm going to ask Callie also. What made you want to go be in the Achieve program?
To get my education and make new friends, and like my brother and dad, and like all my friends, even get away from my parents.
Get away from your parents?
That was.
That's okay. Y'all can all admit that. We all felt that way when we went away to college. So.
Yeah, that's how I feel too.
Awesome. Okay, so a question that I have for parents: what got you interested in checking out the program, and what were you looking for in a program? Rhonda?
Well, we started looking into the different programs, was all driven by Callie. From the time we did a person-centered planning back when she was a freshman, and one of the things she said she wanted to do was go to college. And at the time, we weren't sure what would be out there for her. We had heard that there was like one in New Mexico. So we just started looking at what programs might be out there post-secondary, whether it was a college or any other type of thing. But quite honestly, it was her drive and her wanting to do it that prodded us to look.
What about you, Denise or John?
I think the same for Reese. Reese had always said he was going to college, and it just wasn't to him even a thought that he wouldn't. And so I started looking freshman year, kind of like Rhonda, you know, gosh, what's out there, and went to the Families Think College website, which is an amazing resource for kiddos who have developmental disabilities, intellectual disabilities. Has all kinds of programs on there, everything from technical to 4-year inclusive, and just started researching and stumbled across that there was one. Of course, at the time, there was none in the state of Texas when we were looking, and stumbled across Mississippi State, and that's where John went to college. And my brother and my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law, even though we're all scattered across the country, and saw that it was a 4-year program, but it was 9.5 hours away. Never really thought that that was a realistic option. We had moved here from Atlanta. We're Alabama fans. That's where I went undergrad, and John went to grad school. So we just stopped at Starkville on a drive-through to Tuscaloosa going to visit family. And the kids walked on campus, and all 3 of them fell in love with it. So then it was like, well, how do we make this a reality? We're out of state. They don't give preference to out-of-state students. But the Families Think website, I think, and the Facebook group is just a huge asset to families of kiddos. I would highly recommend that to anybody who is interested in pursuing any kind of post-secondary curriculum for their students.
Yeah, it's a great site. Thank you. What about you, Ancy?
Pretty similar to what the other parents have said. Matthew has always wanted to go to college. And once his 2 older siblings went to college, then, you know, it really became what he wanted to do. We didn't really know what that would look like. So then I started doing some research, and really my husband, because he's an Aggie, saw, you know, he routinely reads like a lot of the communications that they send out, and he, you know, saw that there was a program coming to A&M, and you know, so we started looking into it, and you know, just went from there. So, you know, looking at the programs that were available, we, you know, wanted him to go to college, but at the same time, we were, you know, wanting to find a program that had the support and, you know, had the tools for the kids to still be successful and be able to learn independent living and things like that. So we, you know, once we saw the program, we started looking into, you know, what type of support they had available and things like that. And for us, you know, A&M fit the bill.
Awesome. Now, Reese, what did you have to do yourself for your application?
I had to go to an open house, and I got to meet all the other classmates that are in the Access program. We had to do a very long application to submit to get in the program. We also they showed us around campus. They took us all around to the campus buildings and in the classrooms and talked to us what it's a typical day like to be an Access student, going to class and hanging out with friends and stuff. We also did like a PowerPoint presentation on why we wanted to be in Access, and that's pretty much it.
Callie and Matthew, did y'all have to do anything different than that, or was the process similar to that?
Well, me and Kelly's, I think it was similar. It was like same because we both had to like write. Well, we didn't write, but we had to like fill out like this very long application, and we had to do like an interview on Zoom, and then we had to do an interview on campus too, and then after that we had to wait for like an answer, and so yeah, so we had to do like all that.
Callie, how did you feel when you found out that you got in the program, Callie?
I was super excited.
Yeah, I was too. I was really excited.
Yeah. What about you, Reese? I think you were on TV, weren't you?
I was so excited. Oh yeah, I was on TV.
Yeah. And parents, what about y'all? Just chime in. How did that feel when you got final word that they were accepted and going to be going?
Shock.
I want to say it was a mix of excitement, nervous, thinking about how we needed to prepare, a long slew of emotions, just thinking about some dreams fulfilled of, just getting accepted to the program itself. But yeah, just, starting to think about, as parents, like, throughout Matthew's life, we're always trying to prepare for the next thing and make sure he's equipped and make sure we, have everything available and all that kind of stuff. So it was just a matter of thinking about all of that. So it was very exciting. Same time, a lot to think about.
What about you other moms and dads? Anything to add to that?
So no, pretty much the same. The one thing that I kept saying that I know this will apply to Matthew and Callie, but I'm not sure Reese, but I'm going to get it similar, is that they had over 70 applications at A&M last year. And Matthew and Callie were one of 7. So I was like, y'all are the top 10%. That's something that we tout a lot around here is who's in the top 10%. And, for that program, they were the top 10% last year. And just, that's a staggering number to me of how many applied. To me, that just speaks volumes to the need of these programs when there's that many people applying.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I want to hear more about your experience. So, Callie, where do you live at school and who do you live with?
Oh, well, I live in an apartment on campus, and I live with 3 kids. I live with 3 girls now. Coming to the mess, I live with 3 girls at Waikiki.
3 roommates or 3 total?
Well, it would be for the last semester was 3.
Okay. What about you, Reese? Do you live in a dorm, apartment? What?
I live in a dorm with my roommate Garrett.
Okay. Awesome. And is he in the access program too?
Yes, he is.
Okay. What about you, Matthew?
I live at White Creek Apartments on campus too, and I had 3 roommates. One is a chief student like I am. Another one is like a mentor that like everybody has at A&M. And then another one is just like a regular Texas A&M student. So like it's all 4 of us.
Awesome. And who wants to tell me about, I want to hear about what kind of classes that you take. So Reese, you want to start out?
So classes that I took this semester, I took this money math class that, like how to pay bills and how to file a check and how to open a bank account. I took this independent living class, cooking class about how to like cook recipes and how to cook in your dorm. I took this employment lab workshop class that like how to interview for a job and how to communicate with your boss and coworkers. I also took social skills, and that basically how to socialize with other people, relationships, like how to have a good relationship with like your parents and your friends, and like boyfriend girlfriend relationships. Yeah, I think that's all I took.
And I think all those classes are classes that all young adults need. Boy, I think that those are more important than some of the other freshman classes. What about you, Matthew? What classes did you take this year?
I took one class of special populations. It was a class for people who have like disabilities and can like learn about it. And then I took a basketball class, and that was just a class that can like just like help you like get better at the sport or like and can teach you more about it. And then I took this class called All Blue, and it's a class for freshmen that was required to take.
What's it
And
called?
then I took Positive Choices. Positive Choices was a class that can like help you make like better choices and can like help you. And then I took a navigating college life, and that class talks about like just like life in general. And then the last class I took was study hall, and that study hall was a class you can take to do homework and just like study. So
What was the first one that all freshmen have to take?
it was Hollow Blue.
Hello Blue?
Hollow Blue.
Oh, okay. Very cool. Callie, what about you? What classes did you take?
Well, how
What
about
are they the
we?
same?
I take Bila history.
What kind of history?
Bila about parade.
Ah.
And I did yoga. And I did out in college life too, and positive choices.
Positive choices. And is college life just about how to navigate college and all that?
Yeah, me and Matthew went in that same class.
Awesome. Very cool. Okay. So when you guys were not in your classes, what kind of things did you do when you weren't in class? Reese?
I would usually hang out with my friends, and I would go over to my siblings' apartment and hang out with them and play the Wii.
So did y'all have
I also pledged to fraternity this semester, so I was busy doing that.
Wow. I bet you were. That's awesome. Is your brother in that fraternity?
No, he's not.
Okay, that's exciting. Okay, what about y'all, Callie? What do you do outside of class?
Well, I found a tour. I found a tour I like to go to, and I hang out with my roommate Julia.
Her name's Julia?
Yeah.
Okay. Matthew, what about you? I'm sure you fit in basketball somewhere.
Yeah, you're correct. I actually did this league called Intramurals, and it was like a league that you could like get a team together and just play. And so I was the team captain of my team, and we and I made my own team, and I just had fun. So that's what I do outside of class. And then another thing I do outside of class is go to football games. And what else do? I hang out with my roommates too. So
I forgot to mention football games and hang out with my roommate.
wait, Reese, what college you go to?
Mississippi State.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're at that Hill State.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, that's their thing is like Hill State.
That's
That's
their slogan?
yeah, that's what they say.
Okay, I have a question for parents. So how often did y'all speak to your son or daughter when they were away at school? And would also be interested to know, how did the program communicate with y'all, parents? Denise?
So we text a lot, but having had triplets and them being together, we have like a family group text, and they always have texted and kept up with us. So we have this huge group text. I will say that Reese is the least communicative of the three of our kids. He is definitely the most independent and wants to live his life. So, but he does text. The program is amazing. So they set him up with, well, you have all of the administrative people, like I'm sure the Texas A&M program has, with the TAs and the directors and all that stuff. But then they have a college coach who is assigned to them one-on-one for 20 hours a week to help them out. And then they get mentors in 4 different subjects who are students as well. The peer mentor sends us a weekly email giving us an update on everything that's gone on. And usually that's where I find out where Reese is doing everything. Because she'll say like, oh, we went out to eat lunch with this friend and he did this. So that's great. I love getting those emails. And then the program communicates as needed. So I kind of feel like it's a good thing when I don't hear from them, because that means everything's going well. But they're very good at communicating. Like, you have a number to call them at all times when you go through orientation. They give you all of the book every year. Like this year it was virtual because Reese is a sophomore, so this is his second year in Access. So you can always reach them. They always reach out to us and respond very quickly. So that's been a huge asset because you feel like there's kind of somebody there, who's got your kiddos back.
Very cool. What about you, Ancy?
Out of our 3 kids, Matthew is the one that communicates the most, and always has. So we weren't sure what that was going to look like. So it started out that he, was calling us and texting us very frequently, several times a day. But as the semester went on, it got to be less and less. So we were kind of surprised at that, because before he was kind of calling us and telling us, everything that was going on. And then after a couple of months, it was like, every few days and maybe on the weekend and things like that. So, but he does text a lot, so we text back and forth, just like what he did for the day. And so he tells us a lot of what's going on, mostly through text. We talk, like I said, started off very frequently every day, and then it kind of went to every few days. So I'm imagining, as the years go on, it might be less and less, but which is very typical. And as far as the program, they're really good about communicating. They pretty much, will email if there's, a lot of information that we all, as parents and students, need to know, things that we need to work on, or just things we need to turn in, all that kind of stuff. They'll email us all of that information, things that we need to how to prepare for the next thing, next event, kind of things like that. Of course, we, have their cell phone numbers, and they're very responsive, so we can, send them a text or call them if there's any issues or anything that we need immediate help with, or if the kids need immediate help with. But of course, that is rarely used. Obviously, we try not to text them or call them on their cell if it's not something, that's more immediate. But and they will text and call us as well if it's necessary. So I feel like the communication's been good. I don't know as much of what's going on in the classroom. For example, if he's turning in assignments, if he's, things like that. He does have peer mentors, but they don't communicate with us. And the program did prepare us and kind of tell us that we would not know like the day-to-day. Like I am so used to knowing like every single thing that he was doing in high school, if he was turning in assignments, if he was taking his notes, I just knew all that information. But they did prepare us and tell us that, things would be different now that they're in college. They're expected to, take care of their work, and that the professors or instructors would be emailing them and communicating with only if they didn't finish something, or, if there was things that they needed to work on. So I don't really know much of that information as far as what's going on in class, except for what Matthew tells me. So overall, it's been a great experience. I feel like I'm getting the communication that I need as far as, what's going on with Matthew. So
it's a really good thing for parents to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you raising your hand, Denise? Do you want to add to yours?
The school, Mississippi State, or the Access program, doesn't communicate with us about the classwork. We get the end of the midterm report from them that has like everything saying like, here's their grades, and yes, they had these projects and they did everything. And then the end term, just to go on with what Nancy said, that is definitely a decreased amount. But like I said previously, that college coach sending that weekly email, the one he had this past semester was probably the most detailed in what she gave us, which was nice. To me, it was just nice knowing that Reese was confiding in somebody and letting them know what was going on in his life. It doesn't necessarily have to be us, but it was nice that he was telling other people what was going on and having a good time. But that weekly email, I really enjoy that every week. So for Rhonda and Nancy, I know that Texas A&M is, newer program. I mean, this is the first year, and it's definitely a learning curve. States had their program for 10 years now, I think. So they've kind of learned, and I think a lot of the programs nationwide kind of model off of some of the stuff that Mississippi State has implemented. But that might be something to mention to your program directors, that, you know, other programs are doing a weekly email, kind of giving more of a social aspect of what's going on and what they're seeing as the peer mentor.
Very cool. Thank you. Now, Rhonda, I'm friends with Rhonda, so I know a little bit about how often she talked to Callie, but I would love to hear from you.
So I've got the complete opposite that the two of you have. My daughter, I think, was there for almost 2 weeks before I called, before I got to actually talk to her. There was one point I even texted her and said, "Can I call you?" And the answer was no. So she is not as communicative. She does text me, usually good night every night when she's going to bed. Doesn't happen all the time, but most of the time she'll text me that. Sometimes I'll usually respond with good night, I love you. Sometimes I get nothing back. Sometimes I get okay. And sometimes I get I love you too. But most of what I'm finding out about Callie is through her friends that we happen to talk to, or on Facebook when anybody posts anything on Facebook. So she has wanted to be so independent on her own so much that sometimes I think she thinks if she calls home that that's a failure. So she just doesn't do it with that.
Cracking up.
Yeah. she wants to be, and I can't see her. Something's wrong with the computer screen on mine, so I have no idea what faces she's making right now.
She's just cracking up.
Yeah. So as I'm telling you the truth, that's what she doesn't respond home very often. But I will agree with Nancy on as far as the communication with the program. Anything's happening, they're going to, like I told you, Julie, I could text Dr. Hester right now and I would get a response if we needed an answer. But as far as day-to-day activities and things like that, we don't get any type of formal written report. I know grades have come out. I still haven't seen Callie because they were sent to Callie and she hasn't shared them with me yet. And she spent a lot of time with my mother over the holidays, so I still haven't seen them. But
I have her right now.
Yes, she's with her right now. So that kind of stuff is a big adjustment. So for parents that are used to getting the weekly, daily, sometimes hourly reports from class to class, you don't get any of that anymore. So I'm going to assume, since they've encouraged us to come back in the spring, that she did everything she needed to do correctly in the fall. And we're moving on with that. But no, she is one of the ones that is definitely not wanting to call home, not wanting to communicate. So we were warned in the beginning to take their calls, that they would call all the time. And I finally, after a week, emailed Dr. Hester. I said, "I'm assuming my kid is still on campus with you because I haven't heard from her." So, but I'm glad. That's what I want, is I want her to be able to be independent and as comfortable living away from me as possible. So
awesome. Okay, I have a question for the students. I want to know, what has been the hardest part about going away to college? And it may have been right at the beginning or all the time or whatever, but what about you, Matthew? I think you have something to say.
Yeah. Well, I think the hardest part of going to the college is like getting used to it. Because just like going to college is like one of those things that like you're not gonna be with your parents, and it's just like one of those things that is just like, I don't know, you just have to get used to it. But
everything is different, right?
Yeah, the campus is different. All the classes are different, but like toward like the semester, when that semester started, like I was actually like, when I first went to A&M, like I was actually really excited because like I've already been to campus like many times. Like I know like where everything is. It's just like sometimes there's just like, I just wish that like I don't know, I was in high school. I don't know, because Liberty was like what was like the best, and I just like wish I was still at Liberty. So, but I like A&M, so it's a good college.
And I'm sure you're not the only college student that's had those feelings of, oh, I wish I was back in high school where it was simpler or whatever. What about what's your favorite part of being there?
Favorite part?
I'm sorry, hardest part. Well, you told me. Let me ask Callie. What's the hardest part for you, and then I'll come back about favorite.
I don't know.
Nothing was hard?
I don't know what happened. maybe the online cap I take.
Okay. And you know, that's a good, that kind of brings up the whole COVID thing. We've had to do more things online and do some things differently because of COVID. Was that kind of hard?
Yeah, it kind of hard to do be the online kind of
Yeah. Okay. That's a good answer.
with the group part that cause we had to do Zoom for the group part that.
Yeah. Zoom calls on with for a group process, that could be hard. Yeah. What about, what about you, Reese? What's been hard or difficult, or was hard or difficult?
Probably being out of state and being far away from home. That was a huge adjustment because I wasn't used to living so far away from everyone. And also probably getting used to classes with COVID, like having to wear a mask on campus.
Yeah. Yep.
And coming home for 6 months.
That's what I had to do. Is I had to wear a mask on campus like the whole day, even in class. It's terrible. I don't like it.
Yeah. Reese was all settled there before COVID and had to come home last spring, just like our seniors last year had to do. Okay. Another question. What is your very favorite part of Achieve or Access? Matthew?
Well, my favorite part about A&M is probably just being there and enjoying it and going to football games.
Okay, great. What about you, Reese?
I would say probably making a lot of new friends and joining all these clubs and organizations. And yeah, I have to agree, going to football games.
So what other clubs and organizations? You did the fraternity, and what else have you joined?
I also got in New Maroon Camp Staff. It's a week-long transition for freshmen coming to Mississippi State.
Very cool.
Oh.
What about you, Callie? What's your favorite thing?
Make new friends and be on my own.
Awesome. Matthew, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna say is one of the organizations actually I forgot to tell you was so there's two. One was Read Rowdies. Read Rowdies is like a organization that it involves the basketball. It's just like a thing you can get like people like hyped up and you can just like go to basketball games. And then for Sports with Kids, it's like a thing where you can teach like other kids how to play basketball, play soccer and all that stuff. And so I really like being one of those two. So
Very cool. Are you raising your hand, Denise? Okay. Thank you, Matthew. Okay, now I have a question for the parents, and I want to start with John. I haven't been ignoring you. I would like to know in what ways you've seen your son or daughter become more independent, like maybe when they came home because of COVID or over the summer. What did you notice different about them and their independence and that kind of thing?
So, that's probably one of the areas I have been most pleased with the Access program. One of the things Reese also does in his spare time, and it's actually part of the program, is he's had internships. He's worked at a florist. He worked at Barnes & Noble last year. He's already got an internship lined up this fall working with a food service company. And the whole goal of this program is to try to have them transition into independent adulthood. And I have seen that independence as he's gone from this from high school to college. And I've seen him as he's come home. He's just been much more independent about everything he does around the house, whether it's cooking, cleaning, doing his own laundry, that sort of thing. And I know all of that. It's, as much as I may nag him, I know a lot of that is coming from the program and how it's rubbing off on him and how some of he's had these day-to-day responsibilities he has had to keep up with in going to class and in doing these internships and the responsibility of, going to a job every day, that can really pump the independence into you.
Very cool. And before I forget, I'm going to ask our A&M parents, I'm going to deviate for a minute because one of my questions later was, is there an employment component of the Achieve program? And can one of y'all tell me about that?
Yes, there is an employment piece to it. Matthew and Callie, it was their first semester of freshman year, so they haven't gotten to that point yet. Second semester is when they start working. It will be on-campus positions, and then it will be off-campus positions as they go through the program. So first semester was really spent, just transitioning to college life. But second semester, they are supposed to be starting their internships. So looking forward to that. So, and then throughout the rest of, so the students that are second year students, Matthew and Callie are first year students, but the second year students were working this semester and will be working, next semester and so forth.
Do you want to go ahead and share about how you've seen Matthew grow and become more independent since he's been in the program?
Yeah, sure. I just, independence. I see, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, we just see that, he just gained a lot of independence. I think confidence, I see a lot more confidence, just his ability to, he's always been very social and he never hesitates to speak to someone or make a friend or anything like that. So, but at the same time, just the confidence that he can do things on his own and that he doesn't have to ask questions or for every single thing, which, just over the years, I, didn't do a good job of having set chores and having the kids do a lot of, things around the house. I was just, one of those moms that just would do a lot of the day-to-day tasks, laundry and cooking and all of that, dishes and everything on my own, without really, because I always felt like the kids were busy or they were tired or they were in sports or, whatever it was. And so, Achieve is helping fill some of those gaps that I didn't do a good job of teaching to him. He is, doing his own laundry. He doesn't ask me questions about it. He just does it when he needs to. If I'm cooking something, he comes in there and helps me. He sees clean dishes in the dishwasher. He's like, "Mom, I'm going to unload it." Just things that he's just doing. Which I know that he's, gained that from, living in an apartment without his mother there to do all those things. So, lots of good independent living skills just from the one semester. And just, just overall, just, the knowing that he has the ability to do things and that he doesn't always have to be with his parents to make choices and do things that he can do them on his own. So,
thank you. What about you, Rhonda? What do you have to say about that?
So, some of the things that I've noticed for sure is some of the independence, and Callie had been doing a lot of chores on her own for a little while. She's a little bit older, I think, than some of them, and so we went through this 18 plus program in the high schools, and so they had her. So doing her laundry and all that's something that she'd always done. But one of the big things that came across for me, and it was actually something that I didn't witness firsthand, but was told about, is I found out she got lost on campus. Okay, so she's by herself. Those of you that are familiar, I mean, A&M's a pretty good sized campus. And so I asked her, I said, "What did you do when you got lost on campus?" She goes, "I asked for help and to find out where the building was, and somebody took me there." And that to me is huge, because I don't know, as a freshman at a campus, I would have done that, the fact that she's willing to go out there. She takes medication on a regular basis, and she can go to the pharmacy and pick up her own medication, go buy the refills, go do everything she needs to do. So she's totally self-sufficient in that, where before it would get down to, she's like, "I just have one pill left." Like, well, when she was out of medicine, she had to make her arrangements to go find somebody who could take her to the pharmacy to go pick it up. So we've noticed those things. And, like you said, the by herself, she'll go into a grocery store. My mom dropped her off at Walmart. She ran in and bought what she needed to buy and came back out. And those kind of things.
Diamond, not Walmart, it's Diamond.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, it wasn't Walmart. It was the store. But just those things like that, as a mom just scared me to death to let go, to let her do. But she's got it, she's handling it. And, even when something does happen, like getting lost on campus, she did exactly what she's supposed to do. And then just the faith that people stepped up and helped and directed her the way she needed to be, to get her to where she needed to go. So just those things like that I've seen have just been huge.
Awesome. Okay, I have a couple more questions for both of y'all, both sets. I would like to know from the students, what are your goals and dreams for after you leave the program, as far as like, where would you like to live and what kind of job would you like to have, family, that kind of thing. I'll start with Reese.
I would like to work at Disney World and be a Disney cast member. I would like to live in Orlando, Florida. I would like to work in the parks and hotels and do the customer service part of working at Disney. So interacting with guests and getting to know all the people that come to Disney.
So a career in hospitality, huh?
Yes.
That's awesome. Very cool. What about you, Callie? Hopefully she'll be right back. Matthew, do you want to answer that? Oh, here we are. Callie, you there? You're on mute, sweet.
Well,
There we go.
I want to own my own bakery.
You see, you want to be at a bakery, huh?
I want to own my own one.
Own your own bakery. You don't want to start maybe by working at one and then owning your own? That's awesome.
I think I don't know, but I haven't decided where I want to live. But maybe not go to my parents.
Maybe not with your parents. Well, it's okay to live with your parents. A lot of people
No,
out of college.
Maybe like a little group home with maybe like a group home,
Maybe a group home. Okay, there's some different options out there. What about you, Matthew? What are your plans for when you are done with school?
Well, after I'm done with school, I want to do something in sports, and like I've always wanted to do something in sports. It's because just like so when I was in middle school, when I was at Vandy, I was manager for basketball and I was manager for football. And then when I got to Liberty, I was manager for varsity basketball and for JV. And so like I just want to do something in sports, like whatever it is, like it could be like sports training, it could be like I don't know, anything. I just want to do something in sports, and I want to live in Houston. This Houston's like my favorite place to be. So.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of sports places near your home too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay, so parents, what would you say would be something that it would be good for parents of students that are considering being in a program like this? What would be good for them to know now? Or what are some things maybe that they should work on now if they are thinking about applying to one of these programs? John or Denise, do you want to start?
I think one of the biggest things that parents need to work on prior is you can't wait till junior year when you're starting to apply to work on these things. Independent living factors was probably one of the biggest criteria. Just like Rhonda said about A&M, there were 70 to 100 applications for Reese's year, and they took 6 students. So if you do the percentages, it's harder to get into one of these post-secondary 4-year inclusive programs than it is to get into a Harvard. The spots are just not there. So when you're going for these interviews and applications, we sat there. So when Reese did his interview, all the kids, they split them half and half. So there were 24 students that interviewed total for the final spots, and we did 12 at a time. And you're sitting there looking at these remarkable young men and women freaking out. John will attest that I had a complete and utter meltdown when I realized how selective it was, because I wasn't aware of how do you get a spot in a program like this when every single child that's sitting there absolutely deserves it. So they are taking the top students. The kids that come in need to learn these things. Like, they will help with laundry and that kind of thing, but they really are wanting them to be independent. They have to be independent taking medicine. They have to be completely independent to take care of activities of daily living, because they live in Mississippi State requires they live in a dorm for the first 3 years, and then they can have an apartment senior year. So all of those things, like I remember when we filled out the application, they called to do like the final step, and they did that big assessment of like, can your student do this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That took like 2 hours. And they got to all the part about the money and the checking account and the ATM. And we had never done any of that, none of it. And so those kind of things, laundry, cooking, state has done a good job of working on some of that with them. Like, they, here's how to call people for repairs, but you can't go into the program thinking that your child is going to be taught all of those things. They're looking for kids that already have a good foundation that they can build on. So I would say have your kids take lots of different classes in high school that they're interested in, even if they're just auditing it and somebody's sitting with them to help. But, well-rounded kids that are active. I mean, it's pretty much like any child applying to college. They wanted kids that were well-rounded, lots of activities, good foundation of independent living, and just know it is highly selective, and it's probably the most I have triplets, and I was on bed rest in the hospital, and they were born at 28 weeks, and this process was the most stressful thing I've ever been through. And then you interview in November, December, and you're waiting till like February, March to find out. It is a long, tedious process, and so just hang in there.
Great advice. What about you, Rhonda?
I'm going to ditto a lot of what Denise just said. They are looking for the foundation to kind of be there. And I had thought we had done a pretty good job of different things of preparing Callie for, because she could, I could leave her at home by herself and she could make sure she ate. She could take care of, basic hygiene needs. She could, do all these other things. And then when you start looking at what some of the things the program's asking, prime example, the money and the budgeting, that's not something that we've ever really worked on, ever really strived. Callie's not a big go to the mall kind of shopping kind of person. So it was never anything that really came up. Another thing that they look for is the willingness of the child. Like we all talked about, our kids have talked about from the time they were, younger, that college was just in the vernacular. They wanted to go. So they're going to make sure that it's driven by your student and not by the parent. And they take them away. I mean, that was one of the hardest things is, we go down there for the on-campus interviews when we made it that far, and we had a parent interview without her around, and they take the kids and they're gone for 4 or 5 hours. And then you're like going, what is my kid doing? What are they saying? What's going on? Because, it's going to make or break what the deal is. Part of it where they get their comfortable walking around campus, if they're comfortable talking to people, they really want to be there. Just all the different things, because they want the kids to want to be there. So it really does need to be driven by them. But Denise is right. It's a long process. The application, I'm thinking if I had to go through half of what they did to get in when I went to school, and I went to the University of Texas, I would never have gone, because the application was that tedious and that complicated to go through, and just, you think you pass one hurdle and another one to come up. And the good news is like each time you made a process, we're one step closer, we're one step closer, we're one step closer. But it's a long process. Well worth it in my opinion, but just don't go in thinking, oh, I'm going to submit it in like some of your typical kids, and a month or two they're going to get the acceptance letter that they're in. Doesn't work that way for these programs.
Thank you. Nancy, do you want to add anything? What do you think would be good for parents to know?
Well, I agree 100% with Denise and Rhonda. I feel like it is such a selective process, and like Denise said, when we went for the on-campus interview, there were 2 separate days, so a total of 26 kids, 13 each day. And I felt like around 13, maybe it was like 13 and 11 or something like that. But every single kid there were so deserving. I mean, they were extraordinary kids. They, were just amazing in every way. And I thought, I don't know how they're going to pick from these kids, if they're going to choose from these kids. So, I mean, as you're preparing, like they both said, independent living skills, budgeting, giving your kids money and having them figure out if, they have enough for the week and how they should spend their money to make it last, things like that, which we, had started doing with Matthew. We were starting to give him, money and having him trying to figure out if he has enough to buy things and, what he wants versus what he needs and things like that when it comes to budgeting. But he didn't have a checking account, and that wasn't something that we had taught him. And he didn't learn in high school. So that was definitely something that we should have been working on. And like I said, I, hadn't taught him like all the chores that he should be doing. But thankfully, from talking to Matthew, they could see that he had the willingness to want to learn all those things and that he, really did want to be independent and he wanted to be on his own. And really, I was probably an obstacle in that process. So, and they could see that, he wanted to be independent. And another very important part that Rhonda mentioned is that the Aggie Achieve program really stressed that they wanted it to be the student who wanted to go to A&M and not the parents. They wanted to make sure that the kids wanted to go to college and that the kids felt like it was an important part of their future, and that they themselves wanted it, not that the parents just wanted it for them. So that they felt like that was very important. And I know when they, like Rhonda mentioned, they took the kids off by themselves and, interviewed them and things like that. I'm sure that was a lot of what was asked or discussed. They really wanted to make sure, because they felt like if it was just the parents push, that the kids would have less of a chance of being successful because it's not really what they want for their future. So anyway, yeah, I mean, in preparation, independent living skills, just making sure that the desire is there for the student to want to go to college. And, and then, having them do things like with friends where they're away from you, where they're going to, a game with a friend and where the parents don't go to the game, things like that. I mean, starting to do those things like junior and senior year versus waiting to, not do those things until they get to college. So, because they will be going with friends and the parents won't be around. So, just little bits of letting go so that you're not having to do it all, the day they're in college. So.
I think your son wants to add to that. Go ahead, Matthew.
When my mom was talking about games, like going from games like with friends, that is just way different going to games without parents and being with parents and going to games. Like when I went to my first A&M football game as a student, that was just different. Like being in student session, being with my friends, and my parents not being there is just different. Like I don't know. It's just different without my parents being at it.
You're adulting.
Yeah.
Y'all are doing lots of adulting. Okay, so a final question for students, and then I'll ask if anybody has anything to add. But I want Reese and Matthew and Callie to think of if somebody from high school was thinking about being in one of these programs, what would you say to them? What would you do to either encourage them or whatever? Matthew, you want to go first?
Yeah, I would. So one thing that I would say to high school students that are going to be coming to college is that be ready to do a lot of work. Be ready to be on time to your classes. Be on time to live on your own without your parents having to tell you stuff. Be ready to get on buses where you have to go, knowing where where everything is. And so, and knowing how to like, I don't know, use like all these different like things on the computer, like Google Docs, Microsoft Word, like all that stuff. And
So
so,
learning lots of new things.
yes, lots of news, yes.
Thank you. What about you, Callie? What would you tell somebody in high school?
I would tell them work hard and never give up.
Aw, awesome. Work hard and never give up. I love it. Reese?
I would say probably that you're going to be more independent because you're going to be off without your parents. Probably to like work hard, and you're also going to make a lot of new friends. So it's also going to be a lot of fun.
Parents, does anybody have anything to add? This has been exactly what I wanted this to be. Hearing from both of y'all, both students and parents. I think this is going to be a great resource to share with families that are interested in this. Do you have anything to add, anybody?
One thing I forgot when we were talking about getting prepared, I think it's also good if the student has an opportunity to have any work experience before they apply to these programs. A lot of the programs do teach job skills and, you know, and have the internships and things like that, but going work experience would be helpful. So if there's any opportunities in high school, you know, junior or senior year, you know, whether it's workforce through the school or, you know, different programs, if you are able to get some work experience, I think it would be good for the application as well as just for the student to have going in.
Yeah, and whether it be in through classes they're taking, but either way, I think hooking up with Texas Workforce Solutions is very, very important. So that's a great suggestion.
For Reese, he didn't have a job, but we kind of looked as volunteering in our family as a job. And so he and Davis and Brantley Kate, all three got the 100-hour volunteer cord for Frisco ISD for graduation, do mission trips in the summer, volunteer on a regular basis. We would volunteer some as family, some was more independent. But yes, I agree with Nancy. That was one of the questions on the initial application, which was very brief for them to weed you out. So was, do you volunteer? Are you active in clubs? Have you had a job? And so even if it's not a paid job, if you can shadow somebody or do volunteer work with your church or, you know, some of the clubs at school and high school, you know, beta club, different kinds of clubs, be active in the different activities. Reese was very active in theater. So those kind of things.
Showing that well-rounded part that we were talking about.
Yeah. So, but I would just say, make sure too, to keep all of those evaluations and make sure all of your school evaluations are up to date, because they have to have all of the, you have to have the psychological evaluation within the past year and the blah, blah, blah. And so having all of those IEP reports immediately available and the evaluations and all of that kind of stuff, because they need all of it. Right. All of it. So make sure you have it, because that was very tedious trying to go back and figure out when things that had been done. And I just, my biggest advice is just would be for parents to hang in there, because it was the slowest. We went for the open house October 3rd and they didn't find out that they were accepted till the middle of February. So it is a very, very long and drawn out process. And sometimes it gets very discouraging because you think there's no way it's going to happen. You asked how it felt. Just utter relief was my immediate feeling when they called me and told me that he had gotten a spot. Was just pure relief that we were done and that he had gotten in and would get to live his dream. So, and don't give up either. That would be my other advice. There were kids that were accepted that had interviewed previous years and didn't make it. The nice thing, one thing I like about Access is if you don't make it, they will actually give you feedback on why your child did or did not make the program and things that they need to work on.
Awesome.
And then those kiddos can go home and focus on those things, work on them, and then reapply. They don't say that it's a one and out. You can reapply. And there are kids that have been accepted. One of Reese's classmates, Seth, had applied and didn't make it, and now is in with Reese. And there's all ages. Reese went in as a graduated high school, started the Access program. There's kids like Callie, Reese's roommate Garrett just turned 24. Reese, is that right? So, you know, there's kids of all ages that have, you know, some have stayed at home and continued to work on things and then applied, and some have applied straight out. So
Very cool. Matthew, do you have one last thing to say?
Yeah. And I was gonna say, in my apartment, there's actually someone who actually just turned 21 in my apartment. So I have two people who are 21, and then the last two, me and my other roommate, we're both like younger. Like we're both like the youngest in the apartment. So
Cool. Rhonda, do you want to add something?
I do. I can piggyback off Matthew real quick. I think the oldest one in the Achieve program is 27. So there is, you know, you can just like
Courtney is 28, not
yeah.
20.
Courtney's 28.
28. So there you go. Just like a typical college kid, it can be of any age. But I wanted to piggyback off what Denise was saying about, especially the evaluations and things, just for parents to know, as your kids, especially if you've been in SPED from the very beginning, your IEPs and your evaluations are every 3 years. And when you get to high school, as you get towards your junior and senior year, they'll discourage you from doing those, depending on what your plans are after. And as a parent, they have a right to insist that they do the evaluation. So that's when we got it to that point. We talked through it and said, we want to do one of these programs. I think we need a current evaluation. So they evaluated, and we did.
You want a full one rather than bring
a full one. Yeah.
forward.
Yes, exactly. So just to let parents know they have the right to ask for that. And if this is something to do when it comes up when they're in high school, they need to ask for it and have them evaluated, because, well, let's get frank, you don't want to have to pay for that evaluation once they're out of school. And it is your right to ask. So just a lot of parents, I don't know if they realize they can do that, but they can ask for it to happen.
And a lot of post-secondary options, you don't need that, but in this case you do. And so that totally makes sense. So y'all have been awesome. I want to ask if y'all will consider, this is a year away, I think we need to do this again next year. And I also think it would be great if COVID was over and we could do it in person. And I think it'd be great for Matthew, Callie, and Reese to meet each other in person, and maybe even the parents can do some networking and sharing. It'd be neat to get some type of like group of North Dallas folks that are North Dallas area folks that are involved in programs like these. But y'all are all wonderful, and I hope you guys have a great second semester. And I will also send y'all a recording of this, but y'all are helping a lot of people by doing this, and I really appreciate your time today. So I thank you.